A while back we had Spectre and Meltdown. These two CPU vulnerabilities came out and they were pretty dangerous. They kind of allowed people to go through and access sensitive information on CPU microprocessors, and they were, a force to be reckoned with. And to think that there are 8 more, and this is, excluding the ones that are already here, 8 more additional CPU vulnerabilities. I believe 2 of them more dangerous than Spectre is and Meltdown were. Sorry, that's not proper English. But these new issues are using the same kind of general way, kind of generalization, general, they're generally the same, I guess is the best way to describe it, but they allow for multiple ways of accessing important sensitive information. Now, if you're watching this video, you probably have an Intel CPU, or maybe you have an AMD CPU. And to be honest with you, AMD has pretty much been excluded on a lot of these issues. Why that is, I don't know. But, and I'm sure there is a reason out there. It is 10 o'clock at night, and I was up at 4 this morning, so I'm a little lazy and don't personally feel like Googling that up. But these 8 issues have a lot of problems. Number one of the issues allows people to get in to servers, go to I don't know if you know how a server runs, especially the cloud servers. Basically, you have a bunch of different virtualized operating systems running on kind of, we'll just say that you have one operating system is running a bunch of other, smaller operating, well, not really smaller, running a bunch of operating systems, in parts. And it allows whoever's trying to get this information, or whoever's hacking or exploiting this bug, to go through and access the main operating system from one of the smaller operating systems, which was previously thought to be pretty much impossible. Basically why virtualization has gotten so popular, and why people do a virtual machine that has, that download all the viruses and then just close the virtual machine without a problem. Well, this pretty much makes someone able to download a virus, and that virus actually go through the virtual machine to access their computer. And that's one of the dangerous ones, especially on cloud servers. For example, you have something, you have one of your stuff, you have some stuff online, you have maybe a website, or have all the credit card information and stuff going through there. So like PayPal, for example. PayPal is a good example. They have, some of their servers online, and they don't want, maybe using Amazon's cloud hosting or whatever. They don't want somebody to access the passwords of everybody, or Facebook, or Facebook's notorious for passwords not necessarily being safe, but just keep in mind that there's now a whole world of opportunities out there because of this bug. Not to mention, the other problem with these new set of bugs is that some of them are much more easier than Spectre was to exploit, and yet they're still as difficult to patch as the other ones. And by the way, if you're curious if Spectre and Meltdown really got patched, no, they did not. Yes, there are some slight changes and some, little tweaks that they were able to do in the microcode, but it still did not solve the problem, and basically the chips have to be redesigned. But poor Intel once again. And if you're curious on what extent it goes to, keep in mind this is not just Intel. I've said Intel already, but keep in mind that ARM processors, which are basically stuff that you find in phones, are also vulnerable to this. And, AMD's really lucked out on this, because I personally feel like it was just the luck of the draw that, we're not having this problem with AMD. But I feel like, there always is going to be some issue out there, and I wouldn't be surprised to find something from AMD out there that was a problem. I just feel like Intel kind of has a bigger audience, and so they have a lot more stricter scrutiny. And I don't mean like a larger audience in the sense that overall in the servers, they have a lot more of the server market share, and I feel like a lot more research goes into, protecting it and that stuff. Obviously, I have an AMD CPU. I love AMD. Not trying to be, judging one over the other. I'm just saying that Intel just has a little bit more of a spotlight, I personally feel. And so these bugs in combination allow for a lot of dangerous stuff. Like one of them is really easy to exploit, as I've already said, so someone can just code something pretty simply and access all your passwords. And, if you're sitting at from an Intel, CPU standpoint, I always tell people, if you have something of value, it shouldn't be online. I mean, with everything nowadays is on the digital, there's always a way to hack it, and this kind of just proves that. And, if you have something really important, I mean, yes, you're putting a password in there, that's where things get dangerous. I mean, if you're hiding something on a server, you're putting your passwords on a server or something, that can get hacked. I just personally feel like that, there's also things that you can't help. Like if you have to sign into like on your bank account or something, you have, you got to put your password in somewhere, and that's vulnerable now. And I mean, with these bugs, it really does it's scary. And I mean, looking at it from the standpoint, even if you have an AMD CPU and you're going, well, hey, I want to sign into my bank account. Yes, you have an AMD CPU, but keep in mind, those the bank have one. And I feel bad for Intel, and AMD is going to have some major business because, to be honest with you, the security aspect of it is starting to get pretty dangerous. I feel like there's a lot of problems with Intel right now. And I mean, we'll have to see how things go. But I personally hope, if you're watching this with an Intel CPU, and I believe that they're going to be starting to roll out some CPUs with actually the fixed hardwired into it. Keep in mind that, as I said, if you have something of that much value, you have to go extra precautions now. If you're just someone that's gaming on a computer, and you have you just use it for personal use and you really don't have anything too valuable, then people really won't go for it. Because if you have something of value, then don't make yourself a target, I guess, and you should be able to go get away with it pretty good. As I said, though, nobody's safe, even in the sense that if you have an AMD CPU, everything nowadays has somewhere along the line on the internet of your important data, has somewhere that it's going to meet an Intel processor and an exploit. I'm not calling all Intel processors bad. I'm just saying they're vulnerable. This information is now out there, and that 8 issues are going to. Well, actually, now we're up to 10 total issues. Some patched on some not, are out there, and you've got to just keep your eye out, I guess, because it's not looking pretty right now. And I think we had the graphics cards price spike, and I think that was upsetting to people. But this is well, dangerous. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Not really what I'd like to be talking about instead of building computers and things like that, but I feel like it kind of does need to be out there. I did switch up my mic. I'm not using this anymore, sadly. I have the nice little lavalier back. I should be hopefully getting some mics soon. So thank you for watching. Hopefully we get a couple different mics and stuff. But thank you for watching. Hope to see you around. And of course, goodbye. Check out my channel for other cool tech related things. And I already said goodbye.